All right, welcome to Your Time, Your Money, the show where your time is just as valuable as your money, and we know that. Today's a special session. We're going to do a burst session, and we're going to talk about 2023 finances. So perhaps this is centered around your New Year's resolution for money, and we want to make sure that you have some advice and guidance on building out your goals for 2023. So why is it important? Because everybody makes resolutions for either health, fitness, finance, whatever it might be, and most of those resolutions die out by the second or third week in January. So we want to make sure that we can give you some points that you can stick to throughout the year and also help you accomplish your financial goals as well. So I wrote down about 10 different advice points that I could give you today when we talk about building out that goal for 2023. So let's get into it. Today's going to be a burst session. It'll be a little bit shorter for you, but these 10 points I think are very key in developing your financial strategies for 2023. So first and foremost is we want a budget. Not just any budget, we want a monthly budget. We don't want an annual budget. We want a budget that we can go through on a weekly and monthly basis and then know at the end of the month whether we're ahead or behind on our goals. And that's very important because we want to be able to adjust throughout the year. So if we're behind on our savings or too far ahead on our expense goals, we need to adjust our spending or saving habits, whatever it might be. Finance is pretty simple. Money goes either one of two places. Either you spend it or you save it. There's really no in between. So a lot of those expenses are miscellaneous expenses that people don't allot for. So a monthly budget is going to help you plan for that. And we want to create a list of your monthly expenses and your monthly savings goals as well. Now, monthly expenses, what if you pay a bill annually? People ask me all the time. Well, then I would just divide it by 12 and break it down into a monthly expense. Because if that money's left in your savings accounts, it's going to be there for when that annual bill comes in. So first and foremost, create a monthly budget. Second is we want to consult our budget for large expenses. So if we have a large expense coming up or an opportunity to purchase something, we have to look at our budget and be able to say, should I buy it or not? Just because the money's in your savings doesn't mean that it's budgeted into your expenses for the year. Okay. As you build out a monthly budget and you start allotting money towards your various bills and expenses, you might get to a point maybe in June where you got a couple thousand in there. But you really have to take a strong look at your budget because that might be for a September payment of your school taxes or something along that lines. So just because the money's in your savings account doesn't mean it's budgeted for large expenses. If you don't have that extra room in your savings for a large expense, then budget it out. Calculate how many months it's going to take you to save up for that and start putting extra money away or reducing your expenses somewhere else in your portfolio for the month. Third is, keep track of the small purchases. There's a lot of apps out there that'll allow you to scan your receipts. There's a lot of programs and apps out there that'll track your monthly expenses. And we want to keep track of those smaller receipts. I always joke around with people, I'm married, but I'm dating miscellaneous because miscellaneous is what ends up causing a lot of problems within the household. All right. We want to make sure that miscellaneous is as small as possible. We want to make sure that we keep track of it. So very important, keep track of those small expenses. Third is to get rid of debt, get it under control. And we're talking credit card debt. We're talking other types of debt that have very high interest rates. Obviously, we want to make extra payments as we can. But some of the problems is people try to get out of debt so fast that they forget to save. And, unfortunately, that never happens because people will put all their money, all their savings towards debt, try to get out of debt as fast as they can, but an emergency comes up and what happens? They don't have any savings. So it goes back on the credit card. It goes back on, one of the other tools that you borrow from, maybe a home equity loan or something along that lines. So one of the best ways to get out of debt is just make small incremental payments on that principal on your debt, but at the same time, save. So that when the emergency comes up, your savings goes to zero and not necessarily back on your credit card. So it's a little counterintuitive because we say, hey, we want to pay off this credit card debt right away tomorrow. But sometimes slowing that payment that payment down a little bit will help you gain ground on your debt and get rid of it once and for all. Another key time during the year that you want to make sure that you have, finance in mind and paying off debt is centered around tax returns. When you get your tax return back, a lot of people have already spent it in their mind. But that's a great time to take the majority of that or part of that and pay off debt, increase your emergency fund or your savings in general. So we want to keep track of that. Another is to review your auto pay subscriptions, right? And this gets a lot of people because you might say, hey, you know what, I belong to Netflix for whatever it is, $9.99 a month, Amazon services, Hulu or whatever it might be. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you take inventory of all those subscription services, it can be pretty large at the end of the month. So I would review your subscription services, see which ones you really need, which ones you've used throughout the last year or so. If you've got a subscription service that you haven't used in 6 months, 8 months, or a year, then go ahead and cancel it. It's going to save you on a monthly basis, allow you to get caught up on your monthly bills, pay off the expenses, and what have you. And companies are notorious for starting those subscription services because they know the average person does not review them. And they'll continue to pay on them for 6 months, 12 months, 2, 3 years until they say, you know what, enough's enough. So I would encourage you at the beginning of the year, check to see which ones you use, which ones you don't, might be able to save some money there. Manage your emergency fund. This is where we see most financial plans fall apart is people do not have an emergency fund. There's a lot of programs out there or thoughts or opinions out there, 3 to 6 months worth of bills. You really have to take a look at what are your bills and does it make sense. If you have a lot of monthly bills, let's say your monthly bills are $12,000 a month, you might not want to have 3 months worth of an emergency fund. You might want to have 6 or 8 months worth of an emergency fund because your bills are so high. If you're a first-time saver, maybe you're living at home with your parents and your bills are $500, well, you're probably going to need more than $1,500, $2,000 set aside in an emergency fund. So make sure that your emergency fund is up to date and your balances get there as fast as possible. That's going to be the best way to keep you on a debt, keep you on track for your budgets for the year. Next, I would say, is review your monthly savings goals. Okay. When we talk budget, a lot of times people focus on the expense side and they forget about the savings side. So we want to make sure that you treat your savings like a bill. So on a monthly basis, have your savings goal ready and available for you to make sure you get to it. Could start as small as $50, $100, $1,000 a month, whatever it might be. Make sure you're reaching those monthly savings goals because those are going to allow you to get out of debt, stay in the positive and not feel like you're behind the wave, so to speak. You want to be in front of that wave. You want to be able to make it to shore okay, which is your retirement or your other goals that you have. In addition to that, number 8, I would say use price comparison tools. Nowadays with technology, it's very, very easy to find price comparison tools out there that'll, allow you to compare either larger purchases or daily purchases with other sites. Is it cheaper at Target? Is it cheaper at Walmart? Is it cheaper on Amazon? And if you use those tools throughout the year, you could save hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, especially when it comes to larger purchases or larger investments within your household. Okay. Another one to use is use finance apps. There's a lot of free apps out there, too many to name out there, but they'll track your budget. Actually, most credit cards or bank accounts that you may be with, they have some type of spending analysis software. And you can register and sign up for them, usually free if you already use their credit cards and do banking. And what it involves is you going in and maybe classifying what your expenses are. So maybe you have to go in and title this was a grocery or a gas purchase, or this was entertainment or whatever. And most of them are, AI technology where they'll learn as you go. So if you're always going to say TJ Maxx and you're putting that in as a shopping expense, it'll learn that. And when you charge money to TJ Maxx, it'll put it down as miscellaneous shopping or clothing or merchandise. If you're going to, Cumberland Farms for gas all the time, it'll start learning that and it'll mark it as a gas purchase. So be confident in using those apps. It'll help you analyze and track where your spending is. Maybe you'll be able to adjust some of your patterns and habits to make sure that you can get a little extra savings in there. And then the final point in encouraging you to get to your 2023 financial goals is to educate yourself. So one of the first things that you've done is tuned into this series here and reviewed some of the educational material that are out there. You want to also look at other types of financial educational tools that can help encourage you and make you understand what it takes to be a better investor, a more confident, more educated investor. So hopefully these tidbits kind of allow you to get to a point where 2023 is a very successful year for you financially. Take them with a grain of salt, but really apply them towards your New Year's resolutions going into January, and let's get on to the savings end of things and build wealth within your portfolio. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in today. You can find us at yourtimeyourmoney.net, and that's .net for your net worth. You can reach the Esley Group at 43 British American Boulevard in Latham, New York, 12110. You can reach us at 800-222-3202 if you'd like to schedule time for us to do a free review. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Share this with other people so that they can get this timely content out for you. Thank you so much and have a great day.